Thank you. Thanks a lot. Hopefully, I'm audible. Yes. Am I audible at the conference?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to do a check. Like I don't want to speak and no one is listening. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, inviting us, the entire panelists. I was just trying to assess the all the different people from different part of the world, right? And I realized that we have over 300 years of experience between all of this group. So great to be really managing this panel and talking. So the topic here we are covering is new business opportunities in digital economy, right? This is very, very hot topic. And what's next and what we can expect. Before we start, right? What is this digital economy? There has been many thoughts, many things. It's all about economic activity resulting from billions of online daily transactions or connects and all that. And these connects are between people, business, devices, data, and different opportunities, right? So how they get connected and create opportunities. And a lot of people have question is what is digital transformation? Is it new or something, right? It's all about using the latest technology to do what you are already doing, but do it better. How can you further improve it, right? In my world of manufacturing, I always look at five different things. How can I increase the throughput of sales? How can we optimize the cost? How can we reduce the defect? How can we increase asset availability and safety, right? So different aspects have different, but overall, how exactly it's going to impact the economy. Adoption of digital tech is more on the transformation of services and business by doing digitalization, and leading to digital transformation. So there is a journey to that. Nobody can directly reach to digital transformation. There is a journey how you convert the data. Now, about all this hyper connectivity, there are multiple thoughts around this, right? How exactly this might hyper connectivity happens. It's all about how you collect the data, how you transfer the data, and how you consume the data. On collecting the data, it can be from devices, IoT devices, from human, anywhere where exactly the data is generated. Transforming it can be through technology like 5G or different approaches people can follow. And when you're consuming and getting the insights and creating value out of it, right? It is very, very powerful, and that's the reason we are talking about how this economy of data is going to impact the entire world. And I will go round the panel to give their initial thoughts, but few of the examples in the digital economy world is like Uber, they don't own any car, but they are the biggest transporting company. Similar in the room service or provider, right? Airbnb is there. Twitter, they don't own the information, but they really circulate and share the information, right? So these are the big companies which got formed based on the data, and if you call in today's digital economy. So what I will do, I will go one by one and have maybe a few first 5 minutes thoughts from each one of them on the new business opportunities in the digital economy, what next and what they can expect. They can share their own thoughts, what they feel is going to impact. So I will start with Mr. George on the panel at the dais right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And happy to share a few thoughts where I see the journey is going. I mean, we have got a couple of very, very important developments ahead, and we mentioned them a couple of times. I'd like to summarize them a bit slightly different. One is this fusion of human and machine, which has all these different elements from AI, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, also the smartphone getting more and more important in each of our lives, the connection between the brain and the machine. Ultimately, where this journey is going is our human bodies will be the platform, will be the operating system of the technology of the future. The way we are currently operating, where we have little devices which we carry around, is not very efficient, because our body is actually far more powerful, because we, and this is the second trend, contain a quantum computer in our brain, which is, you know, being able to calculate all sorts of things in parallel. And technology is not there yet, but eventually it will take over for certain of those functions. The second bit is also how we calculate it and where we calculate it. We heard about cloud. I mean, there's also other areas like edge computing, blockchain, etc., etc., etc. A lot of technological things. Ultimately, it all comes back to business problems, real problems. It's not about creating a digital strategy for a business. It is solving a business problem. There's no difference between a digital strategy and a business strategy, because digital strategy is like saying, I have a people strategy for a business and I have a digital strategy. There's only one strategy. And that's how you solve the problems. And only those businesses which truly solve a problem will survive. Those businesses which try desperately to find business applications for technology usually fail. There's a lot of hype about Web3 and other things. The most important bit to know is most of these things have been around, and only technology has made them better. Web3 and blockchain technology is not that absolutely new. It's just how it's being done is really, really new. So if you're interested in that, go a bit deeper. So we could go on about talking about technology, but let's go to the real business problems. What are the biggest challenges which we face? The number one challenge on a daily basis we face is when we do transactions with governments or with businesses, that these transactions are sometimes not very efficient. How do we make these transactions efficient and simple? This could be payments, this could be our tax return, this could be all sorts of things. That's where technology can help. Number two, health. Health is ultimately important, and we learn that at different stages of our lives, the hard or a software. And technology enables access to healthcare, access to health solutions in a way which are quite unique. The third thing is the area of the workplace, because ultimately we all need jobs. And there's not much effort sometimes being taken by companies in really looking after the people end-to-end as the biggest asset. I'm not doing an advertising segment for briohr.com, but ultimately, if you're able to identify the best person, nurture the best person, develop the best person, pay the best person, you ultimately create an amazing asset for the digital economy of the future. The fourth and last point I wanted to mention is to do with climate change and using technology also to live more efficient, energy-efficient lives in the future, to create a higher livability for all of us. Now, to me, coming back to the original question, where is the journey going? There's a lot of technologies being thrown up, but only those technologies which truly solve a problem will survive, and whatever we see right now might not be the technology in a few years' time. I just wind the clock back 10 years ago. 10 years ago I had one job, today I have 8 jobs, which is a function of time. That these days professions move more towards smaller, like distinct elements. 10 years ago I traveled 1 to 2 times per week. Now I travel maybe once a month. 10 years ago I was flooded with emails. Today I'm flooded from WhatsApp, WeChat, and all these different channels, LinkedIn messages, which are particularly annoying. Emails have actually dropped off more and more. And 10 years ago, I had to attend AGMs, I had to wear a tie and so on. These days, that's gone. 10 years ago, I had also far more hair, but that's unrelated to digital. So to me, that's what's ahead for me. Back to you.
Yasmin, yeah, you can go. Yeah, each one on the dais can go next to each other. Yasmin, you want to go next?
All right. Sorry, there's an echo, so I couldn't quite hear you. So thank you so much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Um, having been in the industry for 30 years, both in the private sector and in the public sector, but having semi-retired, and for the last 3 years, I have been in hibernation. This is my first event, public event, and thank you to my good friend Wei as well as Sri Michael for taking me out of hibernation. So I've got 3 years worth of thoughts I want to condense in 5 minutes. So let me try. So first, to answer the question, what's next, what to expect. So what we know we can definitely expect is the fact that technology and innovation will keep on churning out, and we can also expect this group of young entrepreneurs who will grab this technology, push the envelope to the limit, and for good, for profit, or for power. I mean, innovation will always have these 3 human motivations. So we can expect to have this whirlwind cycle of, this next big thing, everybody jump onto it, very speculative. There'll be people who will be just die off, people who will come off, business models will evolve, and then, it will stabilize, bringing the impact until the next big thing comes out and the cycle continues. But very important, and I've always believed in this, especially now since I'm retired and I am very involved in the supporting, advising tech startups. The tech startup ecosystem is absolutely crucial for the economic value creation, harnessing the value from innovation. Because like I mentioned, these are the people with nothing to lose and they'll just drive it. So it's important that a country has this ecosystem, has what it takes to make sure that we encourage the young people and motivate them to become, the t-shirt wearing, jeans donning billionaires of the future. So I think that is one. Now, the second part is what tech am I most excited about? I think there's been said, I think we asked that question, we asked the question earlier. To me, I think what is going to come to maturity is this collective combination of AI, IoT, and sensors. I think what's going to follow suit very, very quickly is this blockchain. But what's really, to me, mind-blowing is this whole world of metaverse coupled with quantum computing. I can't even fathom what the world will change. But more closely to home and more pragmatic is this whole digital commerce. I think Dr. Narayana Yumuti mentioned about digital commerce. This is something that's already happening. Commerce adoption, internet economy adoption, we've heard the statistics across the region is really booming. What I want to see is really the impact of this digital banking. I think almost every country in Southeast Asia has just been, either has launched or has recently launched or about to launch the digital banking licenses. So I want to see how that's going to enable microfinancing, which is taking the whole e-commerce and the whole internet commerce, digital commerce to the next level and pumping in the money, unleashing money through the creation of, different ways of doing profiling, different ways of assessing. So those who were not able to qualify before under the traditional assessment of traditional banking now will be unleashed. So I think I'm interested with that. Now, what I want to talk about, just 2 points regarding what I call the unintended consequences. And I think a lot of times when we discuss about the excitement of innovation and technology, we forget about this unintended consequences. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, I mentioned the cool tech innovation taken up by these young people, and they are basically tech geeks, and they want to solve the world for whatever purpose, either for good, for bad, and so on. But look at the social media, for instance. It has done a lot of good, but we also know there were unintended consequences of social media in the form of mental health, in the form of polarizing societies. Now, I think in the example of social media and its impact, it took us too long to first realize that there was this unintended consequences. And I think until today, do we know that there is clear accountability from the people behind the technology? Or is it just about the latest cool thing and we just want to drive innovation? You want to do this? Sure, I can do that. And then a group of tech geeks is going to go, genius tech geeks, are going to go out and code it out without thinking about the unintended consequences. Now, can you imagine in the area of AI, the transparency of algorithm? I always like to give the example of the driverless car dilemma, where you're driving in the middle of the night, and then on the right-hand side you see a kid, and then on the left-hand side you see an old man, and then a dog crosses the road, and you have to stop. And do you stop? Or do you swerve to the right to save the old man, swerve to the left to save the kid, or really stop to save the dog? So who is going to make this decision? Who will make the car owner, the programmers? So this whole transparency and discussion around AI is exciting. It's going to be coming, but this unintended consequences is what I think what we have to look at. And the last thing that I want to talk about, which is another unintended consequence, the first one was about the power, the immense power, being put in the hands of these tech geniuses without realizing and without the accountability of the unintended consequences, right? The other one is about what I call the Great Divide. The Great Divide is, not only in the area of access, we talk about access, between urban and rural. I'm also talking about the Great Divide around business share and capital and share of capital. So for instance, if you look at the stats, I'm not sure whether this is the latest, but it won't change much. 8 out of 10 of the top global companies in the world are tech-based companies, right? And closer to home, if you look at the C group, the market capitalization is twice that of Malaysia's top 5 banks combined. So, this is the kind of divide that we'll be seeing and we'll continue to see. So that's the second part. The adoption divide is also going to be very, very, I think, something that we will have to keep an eye on. We have to do something about it. Like, for instance, AI alone is going to be able to, according to PwC, uplift the GDP, economic impact GDP, from 14% to 26%. But it's a caveat for early adopters. So can you imagine this kind of disparity for those who adopt and those who don't? And this, again, will contribute towards the Great Divide. And another one is about education divide, which I won't have time for. So how then do we, private sector will continue, this startup ecosystem will continue to drive forward. Corporates and private sector will be struggling to adopt. But who will play the role of making sure that that there is some sort of a balance between finding the value of enabling or unleashing the value of innovation versus making sure that there is also some level of guardrails into it. So this is where governments play a role, and governments need to make sure that the policy making is finding the right balance. So I will stop there because there is a whole different discussion around the role of government in policy. Thank you.
Very good afternoon, guys. I think this is the time after lunch, sleeping time. Great. I'm very grateful that we are in the digital world. The world is completely changed in my 54 years of existence. That's my age I'm sharing with you. What we felt when we grow up, how are we going to do the great divide we're talking about? The 7 billion people, 99% of the wealth is with 1%, and the rest of the wealth is scattered around 7 billion people. If I were to touch and look at the examples which are happening world over, the digital paved way in mitigating that to a great extent. I can quote so many examples, but I want to choose one country which I hail from, though I'm a Singaporean, but I'm born in India. India I've seen before I left 30 years back and now over the years, just because of internet adoption, just because of some of the government policies and the private sector participation. A coconut plucker who goes up and plucks coconut has got a smartphone. He doesn't even know how to speak, how to read and write, but he knows how to send a voice message. Because of that, he is able to sell his coconut at a fair market price. He can say what is available. Very simple example, but hugely valuable. Second, governance we talk about. We talk about corruption, and India is known for corruption. And it's come down a lot, and I've seen personally, just because of e-tender and internet transparency. That means you want to apply anything, everything is in online. If you have a subsidies that goes into the people's bank account, as you know, India is the second largest populous country in the world. The money goes, if you have a gas connection, there is a subsidy, there is a ration connection, there is a subsidy, money goes into the bank, and hence the non-bank people are becoming bank people. You want to buy a pawn, which is a roadside shop, stop there and buy like a peanut kind of thing. You can pay by electronically, Paytm, you can pay that. Wow. You want a medical facility in a rural location where people are suffering, you come on a digital form and manner and the doctors are treating you and medicines are coming home. The world is changed. Digital economy is helping everybody to succeed. Hence, even though every coin has got two sides, I'm a strong proponent of continue to grow with this. But why is it happening? Who is finding the digital world? It's me. Why we do? Because in this world, we all are seekers. As human beings, we want to evolve and grow and get better. And I want to beat myself as a human being. I want something I create which can become like replica of myself. And it can beat me, which is robots. I'm in the space. Similarly, I'm not enough. I'm not satisfied with this world because this cosmos is only one small dot in the global cosmos. So I create my metaverse, my own meta models, which can act and behave and react in this form and manner. If that is true, and it's also true that I, as a human being, understand my existence about myself or my mind, how a small gene has become like who I am today, and what all the features of the human brain, still the science is struggling. That means the digitization and inventions and innovations will continue. So what is next for the business? That's the question which is asked. Why the businesses of each of the businesses, when you look at it, which all the businesses are sustainable and succeed, and good to great companies, when you look at it, they solve the problems, global problems. Whether you talk about the simple thing like a WhatsApp, which is transformed the telecommunication, the communication between people and the business. Even today, it is not monetized, but it is available free, and hence it is transforming the world. The way in which the world is changing, I am crystal clear in my mind. Each and every problem we talked about, I think it has been beautifully articulated, all the hardships of what all need to be fixed still, unintended consequences. That will get fixed. There will be new problem will come, but that also will get fixed. Because of all this digitization happens, and IBM Watson can replace 100 lawyers and 100 hours of work in a jiffy, you and me, we do what? We go and play golf? This is the same question was asked when Ford invented cars. What happened to the horses? What happened to the horse drivers? A couple of decades are gone and we are still surviving and we are thriving. So the point I have is the human tendency. Yes, you take over all this work, but we'll do creatively much more impactful work. We'll continue to learn. The last piece I want to talk about on this is the education and the disparity between, the haves and have-nots. And more specifically, African countries. We all talk about cholera and malaria and all this being eliminated. There are people still dying because of that. If I have money, I'm able to get COVID vaccination. There are people who doesn't have money, governments doesn't have money. They don't have even the first dose. I got 4 doses done. These disparities, the medical facilities reaching, the education reaching, that is going to dramatically transform. In one of my companies, which we have been talking about, the dream we want to achieve is, I need to have a robotic companion. He's like my friend. I need to have the robot to know about my emotions and my behavior and everything else. If I'm dull, he'll come and say, hey, Venkat, why are you dull? It can be my companion, which can do many of my parts. That's on the physical space. And Mr. Narayana Murthy and other speakers have communicated today this morning, the metaverse, where people can represent themselves in many form and manner because we can train them. But what we are not fully understood is the power of the right brain. The human has got a left brain and right brain. The creative part of the right brain, we just started touching it. We talked about again how this dilemma of, how when you're driving the car, which side to take. That's all coming into the judgment calls that whether the machine can replace. Yes, it can, but humans will replace much more. We will continue to evolve. And that's very, very evident. If you want to see, the evidence is there in your home. You go and look at your daughters and son, the youngsters, they're more brilliant. The young entrepreneurs, 21 years, can teach you much more than what I learned over 35 years of my career. If that is true, the human evolution will continue to the man and machine. I invent the machine compete with me, but I will compete with them, and the world is going to be more beautiful. On that note, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I would say what is next after this digital economy, we have to look at the history. Like a Chinese saying, the rise and fall of an empire, we have to look at the history. From the history, we can predict the future. So before we look at this digital economy, we will look back and what sort of the transformations of economic system from the agricultural economy as a primary economic system during many, many centuries ago. Then after that, we come after the Industrial Revolution, then we got the production economy. There is how to use land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship to produce or to manufacture goods. Then later on, we have this what I call infrastructural economic, because we need the infrastructure like airport, seaport, highways, train system to transport the goods to overseas or internally. Later on, after this infrastructural economic, then we have a small what I call change of economic system. They call this what I call this information economic. Then we treat information as a capital goods. That means it's part of the production system. So after this information economic system, then we have this what I call this knowledge economic. We try to make use of this knowledge to produce sophisticated or highly intensive what I call scientific and technological products, just like Microsoft. This is one of these knowledge economic. Then after knowledge economic, you've got two sub-economics. You've got what you call this service economics. How to make use of the computer or internet to sell your services, like sell the books, sell the music or videos through this internet system. Then later on, we got the sharing economic. Sharing, that means you got certain skills, you try to share with other people or try to sell your this what I call your expertise or your talks through this internet or website. These two, service and sharing economic, I would say is just a sub-economics. Normally people don't really classify them as one of the economic system. Then after that, then we come to this what I call digital economic. Digital economy is how to make use of this internet to sell your products or goods through this what I call, sometimes we call new economic system or what a web economic or something like that. So this digital economy is a very what I call all-embracing kind of concept, because it involves many other things like AI, big data, or even this what I call this blockchains, all this anything to do with the computer. Then this is a very in thing in this what I call at this moment. But after this, what do you think is the next economic system? From my opinions, I would say, last time people say who control the oils will control the world. But I would say in future, who control the big data will control the world. You can look at how China built its economic system. At first, this e-commerce supposed to be started in USA. But this Alibaba and Jingdong this what called e-commerce giants, they really go and popularize this knowledge of this e-commerce. Now, Alibaba is the #1 in the world in terms of e-commerce. So I would say, how they do it? Because they make use of big data. So I would say, next economic system to be more specific other than this digital economy should be big data economy, because the use of big data is not only in the field of business, it can be used in politics or in wars. Because politics, you can predict the preference of these voters in certain areas, how you know these voters will vote for you. And in war, then you can predict how the people, how is the support of the people to the government. This is very important, because you want to come to a long-term war, the unity of the people is very important. So how you know these people will support you, then you have to use the big data techniques to gather the data, and then you know the preference of all these people. So I would say the next economic system should be big data economic. That is, I think, that should be the way. Okay, now we are talking about digital economic. We have to know that digital economic, we try to make use of digital technologies to solve, to improve our, what I call production system, the way of doing business, or the process. This is the automation of process, or anything that can increase our productivity. And at the end of the day, we need to be more competitive. That is the whole answer. That means to be more competitive. Any business in this world now, you have to make use of digital technologies. Even though a lot of people confused with digital technology only to do with those doing IT business, actually it's wrong. Now I would say every business, you have to use digital technology. If not, you will be left out completely. Which company that they are not using internet to do business? Which company is not doing WhatsApp to do their business? So I think every, of course, a more advanced one for the manufacturing sector, you have to use the robotic machine or use AI, all these things. But I think even the simple businesses, everybody need to use the internet. I think there's a more basic one. So I would say, by applying these digital technologies in your business, let's say in the field of this, what I call this automotive and mobility, according to a study, you can raise your what I call your sales revenue 10 to 30% just by applying these digital technologies. And in the field of this what I call healthcare, it will really improve your sales revenue from 12%, ranging from 12% to 45%. And then in the field of this freight and logistics, you also can improve the sales revenue ranging from 22% to 23% to 33%. I think this is very, very good for these every businesses. So I think what I call in the field of this consumer and retailing, it can also improve the sales revenue ranging from 13% to 34%. So I think from this data, we can know that you just applying this e-commerce or digital technologies in this sort of businesses, you can really improve your business. I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chin. I think it was very insightful from all the panelists out there. I am disrupting the way we generally do. I'm not summarizing because it's a combination of offline and online, right? So now I will start with the three other panelists online. Mr. Stanley, would you like to share some thoughts on this? And after your thoughts, maybe we will have a question here and there, and then we will go back to the people at the dais. I think you are on mute, sir.
I'll make mine very short. I'm in Canada, and what I do is I've tried to raise the daily earnings of the poor people in the world. There's about 4 billion of them, from $2 to $2.50. Right? That's what I want to do, is give them 50 cents more in their pockets every day. And if I can do that, the whole economy in the world will boom. So, but these poor people, all they have now is a phone. That's the digital appliance that they have. The connectivity they have to buy time for. So out of the $2 that they have to spend some money to get connectivity. We need to improve that. And they can only buy maybe once a day. What they want to buy would be something for the tummies. You want to buy food, oil to cook, rice to eat, vegetables, maybe a little bit of meat. To me, that's the bottom of the digital divide. The top guy is the one Venkat was talking about, the guy who owns all the money in the world. That's the divide. All right? 50 cents for these people, the 4 billion people, will improve a lot. That divide is going to come closer. Now, as they are trying to survive, the whole digital world is zooming way ahead. We're talking now from blockchain to IoT public networks to metaverse for G6. In fact, I'm hearing G7 already. Okay. We have new kinds of solar coming out, perovskite solar that will take over from silicon. Behavioral biometric identification technologies to make sure you get continuous authentication while working your computers. Micronutrient fertilizers to improve food production. That's all zooming ahead. But I'm more concerned about the poor people having a little bit of fish, a little bit of meat, and vegetables, and the staple rice or bread. So while we're caring about how we deal with the digital world, my part over here is how do we let those 4 billion people survive? That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you. I think great thoughts, Stanley. Really, really, very great thoughts. I will go to Mr. Lee next to share your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to attend this conference. Yes, I'm a professor of finance at the CKGSB. I spent 20 years in the US teaching in business schools. Came back to China 10 years ago. Almost in the past 10 years, I have experienced this dramatic transformation, the so-called digital economy, right? Alibaba, JD, Pinduoduo, Tencent, WeChat, TikTok, and finance, so the way we live our lives are completely different, completely changed in this past 10 years. As an academic, I like to think deeper, more systematically, as what do we mean by digital technology? How digital technology change business, change the economy? My way of thinking about this problem is this: digitization, digital technology help us to overcome any physical constraints we face in doing business, in running the economy. Just imagine, like before e-commerce, before Alibaba, how do we do retail? We go to a supermarket, producers put their products on the shelf, and consumers come here to survey the product, to decide what to buy, right? So why we do that? Because we face physical constraints. We can't go to every shop to look at their products. The producers cannot talk to every customer to see what they want, right? So digital technology allows us to put all the products online, so you can see everything on your phone. And for consumers to make decisions, for producers to see your customers' preference. So in business, like the first speaker said, whatever technology you have, you have to help to solve real business problems. So in real business problems, you have several problems. First, to get information. I need information to make decisions. Secondly, based on the information, how to make the best decision. For example, banks, when they used to lend loans, it's very hard for them to lend to SMEs because they don't have good data. It's expensive to collect data from SMEs. Now, and finance, based on the sales data of stores on Taobao and Tmall, they can see your cash flows. They can see your inventories. So they have this information. Then based on this information, you can use AI, you can use financial analysis to decide how much loan I'm willing to lend to you, at what credit spread I'm willing to lend to you. So digital technology solves two problems. First, is you can get information faster, more real time. Secondly, when you have this big data, it helps you to make more rational, more efficient decisions. Now, real manufacturing companies are doing digitization. A lot of business leaders, I say, what do I do? Do I need to hire a super, complicated, IT tech, get this IT technology? And my answer is no. You need to understand what are the critical information you need to have to run your production lines, right? So again, physically, we don't get this information real time. We may get our sales, our inventory on a monthly basis. So right now, if you can get on a real-time basis, you can manage your manufacturing production process more efficiently. So in order to understand what we'll see in the future, we need to understand at a fundamental level, what does digital technology do to the economy, to the business? So again, my conclusion is it helps us to overcome any physical limitations, any physical constraints you have running your business. Having said that, so I feel my prediction of the future is more and more things that can be digitized will be digitized. Okay, but there are things that cannot be done. So my belief is still there are two things that cannot be replaced. I think energy can never be replaced because you run your computer, you need energy. So maybe oil is still important. Secondly, you need computer chips. You need computing power because everything is based on computing power. So these are the two physical things we can never get rid of, at least in the short time. But everything else, if we could, I think will be digitized. So that's my view. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think I am facing challenge of the digital world where you are virtual and you lose connectivity. And sometimes your mobile is more powerful than a laptop, which I'm seeing right now. So thank you, Mr. Cesar. Last but not the least, I think share your thoughts and then we will go around the table for some more reflection.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words anyway. Can you hear me properly? There's a thunderstorm in Brunei, so I'm not sure what the connection is like for all of you.
Yes.
Make sure that technology does work. Okay, fantastic. You talk about smartphone. To be honest, in order for me to operate this, you need to be smart as well now to operate all this stuff. And as I mentioned before, my kids are the one that actually teaching me how to use all this technology, embracing technology. And I think the generation that we are now, we rely on the younger generation to teach us. I remember in my young days, I'm sure a lot of us, you never teach your parents anything. But now it's the parents asking the children to teach us. Actually, when I started my life as an auditor, I mean, my background is an auditor, what I looked at and what I heard of is mainly tangible assets and intangible assets. And now we have these digital assets. And as an auditor, someone in the finance background, how do you value digital assets when it's something you cannot see actually, and it's something that is actually within the internet space and in that world out there, the metaverse world. I was looking yesterday at this NFT, non-fungible tokens. And actually, I could take a screenshot of this picture now here of us presenting, and someone maybe put it on the net and be able to sell it as an NFT and get some money from this, because it seems that people buy anything on the internet if you can convince them that there's a value to it. And what I see now in terms of digitalization, in the auditing life, it took nearly 30 years for us to embrace technology. But it took about 5 years for us to actually be able to not only embrace technology, but to see the changes in technology in terms of the work that we do, in terms of data analytics, in terms of analytical review, data analysis. So in terms from the auditing world, and I'm also an independent director of a finance institution, the data analytics and the information that we get from all this analysis is quite powerful. We rely on the digital economy, the information to provide a lot of analysis and information on us to make decisions. But as I agree with Stanley, as much as we embrace technology, the majority of the world doesn't even know the word technology, doesn't even know what a computer is, what a phone is. And so sometimes we may be running away with technology on one end, but on the other hand, there are a lot of people still lagging behind. And from what I gather with what we've noticed, even in a small country like Brunei, one of the biggest problems we have with technology is we realize that during COVID, when people had to work from home, study from home, there was a really massive digital divide between those who have and those who have not. And the important thing with technology is accessibility, connectability, and affordability. There are a lot of people who couldn't get connected to the internet. They didn't have the devices to be able to connect to the schools. And I think when we look at those who have and those who have not, the digital divide has actually got wider and wider. And I think that's quite frightening because technology is evolving so fast that those who have not embraced will be lagging even further behind. I'm also, just like Professor Lee, a professor at the university, and what I find with the education system is we are lagging behind in terms of the education system, in terms of getting the students ready for this new world, in terms of the meta world, or what you call it, the metaverse world, to understand what Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and the blockchain is. When I look at the syllabus, we still haven't embraced a lot of it. So actually, when I throw some of these words out, it's for these young students, you get a blank look back at you. So as much as we talk about technology, there's still a lot of people who have not fully embraced technology. So I think, to me, that even for a small country like Brunei, there's still a massive digital divide. The education system is still lagging in terms of trying to get people ready, for the digital world. And I think as a layperson, I'll say a layperson in terms of technology is, I get nervous with the digital economy, digital assets, in terms of how do you value the assets. You buy an NFT, you look at Bitcoin, it went down in value by 30% over a short period. So when you invest in Bitcoins, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs, they are not stable currencies or stable assets with a stable valuation. And when you have massive fluctuations in terms of valuation, then there's a high risk in terms of its investment. And obviously, in terms of the liquidity of it, unless you're looking into long term and not wanting to touch it. But I'm still very old school. I have not fully embraced the digital world, although I'm halfway there. But I still have concerns about a digital economy that relies on algorithm. That is something that is out of my control. And if you look at the technology that is used for all these digital assets, it is one of the worst carbon emissions industry because it uses a lot of technology. So it's something that we need to address if you're looking at the green economy and ESG and everything else, because the carbon emission, I think, in terms of even producing some of these tokens are quite massive. So that's my contribution for now, in case that, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think great thoughts how this can impact small. I think it's impacting everyone, but good thought. I will have a follow-up question. We will start with you, Shazali. After COVID-19, how technology has enabled economy in a smaller country in general and in your country? How do you see that happening? Was my question clear? After COVID-19,
I can hear.
How has technology enabled economy of smaller nations? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the issue with a small economy like Brunei, we're totally dependent on SMEs, 80% of MSMEs. And the problem with SMEs is none of them have embraced technology. I think what we're looking is moving from a company that's trying to survive to sustainability. So technology can play a role in terms of small economies to try to grow their economy outside Brunei. The Borneo Island, it's we have a population of 150,000, but if we look at Borneo, I think as Stanley mentioned yesterday, Bimpiaga is also something we can look at, because if you look at Bimpiaga, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei is the only sovereign country in this four, they call it polygon growth economy, which a potential of 40 million people, which is, I mean, small by the context of a lot of you out there, but it's still huge in the context of Brunei. So I think we need to look regionally within the region, and the Borneo Island is probably one of the most obvious one that we can look in terms of SMEs to expand its business out of Brunei in a small economy like us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazali. I think great thoughts. Dr. Lee, next question is for you. What are the challenges in implementing the digital technology in financial industry? What are the challenges you see on your aspect, especially in the finance industry?
Yes, I think
Dr. Lee.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for me, I think digital technology it's going to have the biggest impact on finance. Personally, I think, because finance, what you do, the most important element for decision for this whole industry is information. If you have good information, you can make decisions. So and also, okay, first you get the information, then based on the information, make decisions. So just like I said, the unfinanced case, right? So traditional banks, even nowadays, commercial banks hate to lend to SMEs because it's really time consuming to collect data on these small companies. I want to economy scale. I want to lend billions of dollars. I don't want to spend time lending $100, right? But unfinanced can in real time lend money to the stores on their platform because they see their daily cash flows. This is really wonderful. So I guess with the advancement of a digital currency, like government supported digital currency, almost all transactions can be, this information can be collected in real time. And so I think that will be a big advancement in terms of lending practice. The second thing is decision making, right? So we talk about AI, we talk about, how do we, when we have, big data, how do we analyze data to make decisions? I think from a finance perspective, more and more these technologies like neural network, like machine learning, like natural language processing have been applied to use analyzing financial decisions to make predictions. So you can when you have a lot of data, you can sort of use this model to decide whether I should lend money to this company, whether I should, how do I make forecasts on the macro economy? How do I, sort of forecast, make a financial analyst? How should I forecast the earnings of companies next quarter, next year? So finance, I think, is going to be fundamentally transformed by digital technology because it gives you more information. It gives you more powerful tools to analyze this information. And also, like the Professor Charles Chan talked about blockchain, talk about these things. I think that these blockchain thing will also change how financial exchanges work. Because why do we need a financial exchange? Because when company list shares, they need to have a centralized place to keep records. How many shares the company has sold, who bought how many shares. With blockchain technology, you can do this automatically. Anybody can, whether it's good coin or bad coin, that's beside the point. But this technology allows you to issue, to keep a record of these things. So I think from stock exchange, from information collection, from information processing, digital technology will fundamentally change finance. Of course, we need to deal with regulation issues. all these, all these carbon things. But I think my bet is finance will be fundamentally changed, fundamentally changed, because we are just basically an information industry. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. I think definitely the industry can change if adoption. Coming to Stanley, I think what you shared today, right? Daily earning of 4 billion people from $2 to it's a great thought, right? And I also truly believe technologies will enable that. I want to hear some thoughts from you. How much growth do you expect in digital assets like NFT in next 5 to 10 years, and how it will impact one of your vision, which is adding 50 cents to every human, or at least those 4 billion human out of 7 billion human Venkat talked about.
Well, a traditional family now spends most of whatever available money to make a champion out of each family, one member out of family, just like we did when we were young, right? So that tradition will continue. This is my forecast. But this particular candidate, the champion, is going to grow much faster than you and I have done because of the availability of information, availability of social networks. They will learn faster, their minds will blow faster, bigger, and they will catch up much faster. As they go to school, they would get more information. And information will be key. And if they have connectivity, then they will do a lot better, faster, and they will certainly catch up, and the divide will be narrower. Now, these people, the brain in every human being, they're all the same. It's how we make use of the brain. And out of these 4 billion youngsters, they are going to be champions, they are going to be geniuses, just as we have seen in popular music. They all just have to make one good YouTube and they'll become a millionaire overnight. So those miracles will happen, but in many times over.
Great. I know, Mr. Stanley, I think a lot of people talk about this, that what keeps you awake. You are actually awake at 3:30 morning AM and thinking about 4 billion people and talking to all of us. Really great thoughts. I really love your thoughts here, how this can change. Now, going back to people at the dais, let me start with Dr. Chen. This question is for you. How digital technology can shape the future of pharma industry? What are your thoughts on pharma industry, how it is going to get impacted in this digital economy?
You mean digital currency?
Yes.
Okay. So I think this China, they really have this digital currency. This is one way for China to sort of don't depend on US dollars. I think the fall of US dollar just started when this digital currency of China, digital renminbi, come into the market. Because this digital currency can help China to do a lot of businesses with other countries just by using the digital renminbi. So by not using USD, so China also don't have to be sort of all the while controlled by this US, because US now is raising this interest rate. A lot of countries are suffering. Some countries are, I think, on the worst of bankrupt, or already bankrupt, like Sri Lanka, all this. So because once US raise the interest rate, all this US dollar will go back to China, may go back to US. So all these countries will suffer, because before that, when this US printed a lot of money, this USD, so they use this USD to buy a lot of asset in this sort of developing countries or in other countries. So when this USD, when the US Federal Reserve Unit raised the interest rate, all this US dollar will go back to US because they will sell this asset at those country. So all this country will suffer because they all suffer with high inflation also. So I think digital currency is not only for China, I think for many countries. Because nowadays, you want to do away with USD, the only way is to digitize your currency so that you buy anything, you don't have to use USD. Now you buy oils, you need to use USD. So I think when this Russia was kicked out of the SWIFT system, I think there is another blow to the future of USD. I think eventually this Russia also will digitize their currency so that next time for all the countries to do any trading is very easy now. Because look at China now. China is the largest trading nation in the world. You look at this history. Before that, Dutch or this what I call Netherlands was number one in the world before the rise of British Empire. This Dutch Empire 500 years ago, they were the number one in the world. They are trading. They are the largest trader in the world. So any country, their currency will become variable when they become the largest trading nation in the world. So China now is the largest trading nation. Before that, before this, China is US. US before that also, when the US become the largest trading nation, they will take about 20 to 30 years before USD become the world currency. So I think China also, their currency also will take another maybe 10 to 15 years to become the major currency in the world, just by using digitizations of currency. I think that is the way for any countries not to depend on USD for their trading. Because once you depend on US trading, the USD for trading, your economic system is easily influenced by the US, the interest rate. Because they print a lot of money, to use that kind of money to buy the asset in other countries. Later on, they just sell and pull back the money. So all these countries will suffer. So I think looking at this rate, I think all major countries in this world, they have to digitize their currency in order to be more independent in the world economic system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pierre. I think I will also look forward to see how the world is going to change in this way. Venkat, this question is for you. I want to hear some thoughts from you on the metaverse and robots, right? Because I think you also connected on the topic of medical and education disparity, it can reduce. So is there a way technologies like metaverse and robots can help in some way? If yes, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, 4 years. See, now with all the digitization happens, let's take one example. 7 billion people have to be fed. Food has to be eaten. You're not ready. I'm not ready. My children are not ready to go to the farm and stand on the hot sun and plow. Your son and my son is not ready to stand on a steel making machine, steel factory, where the heats are very high. Who is going to replace? That's robots. That's robotic solution. Metaverse, I'll come and touch upon. Very important. But metaverse cannot produce from thin air the food and machine and cloth and whatever you are wearing today. That need to be done by human. But if humans say it's very hot shape, so I don't want to do that, the machines to be done. Machines are nothing but robotics in a form and manner, and robotics have become configural robotics. That means the same robot can do multiple tasks. So we know that today we talked about, earlier I talked about the medicine and how I can touch the 9 billion people, 7 becoming 9 billion in the next 10 years. You know, in a remotest location, if I want to do a surgery, who will do? I can do telemedicine, I can give medicine for fever, but if I want to do a surgery, microsurgery, robots can do it today, and it is doing today. So definitely the human mind using robots, some of the sophisticated, or for example, even today, the human waste is collected by humans going down, deep down 30 feet, in the dirty smell and the touching with the hand. Are we not inhuman? That has to be changed by machines, and robots can do that, and in some places it is doing, and we have to do it globally. Now coming to the metaverse. Metaverse has got a two component here. The first component, the reason why metaverse has come in, for you and me, I'm just a little bit going philosophical, but it's very important. Because we all, with all this devolution and wealth which we accumulated, we are in a mental dismay. We are hypocrites. We live for the world, but inside I'm insecure. So first and foremost is social media. The number of likes I get and the number of people. Oh, I have another image. Oh, Venkat is different. Not likely, because I don't want to show my true Venkat to the world, but I show an artificial Venkat how it should be. I'm not like that, but I want to be like that, so I'll show all the pictures. It started there. Now it is going to a level where I'm saying that I'm creating my own meta model. I'll have my own land. People are selling land, you know, right? In a digital world. And it's been created today. I can build my building. I can invite people into my guest house in the meta world. I myself invested. So all this we can do for the sake of learning, I invested. So that is one for the psychology part of it, the mental stress part of it, and for me to, live this world. The second part of it is called in terms of solving the human's problem. And that is very, very important. Because in a 3D way, if you are able to say the 2D dimensions, like we discussed today, it's a monogamy. But if there's a hologram of you is here in this form and manner, and once I was listening to the Zoom founder in SID, Singapore Institute Directors Conference, he was saying his vision that through like a Zoom in a hologram, if he gives a warm shake hand, I should feel the warmth of the handshake. And I know today, the one thing which cannot be replaced, the eye-to-eye contact and the warmth of the handshake and the heart-to-heart talk. And it can only happen when you have a hug, whatever you are, you're feeling better. How do we replace it? Technologies are coming and it is taking over many things, but how do you bring that human touch back? The humans are there, but when you do it through digital. So come to a closing comment on your question. The metaverse world of solving the medical problems in a remotest location, I need a 3D printing. I'm able to get like earlier in the morning, people are talking about how quickly people can judge on the actions. Like she's talked about a child is there, an old person is there, a dog is there. How can I navigate? It's nothing but the human intelligence. That's why I said we have not figured out our own human intelligence. I can control anybody in the world. I can control 80,000 employees of my team, but I cannot control my emotions and my mind. Right? My stress I can't control. So there are going to be a lot more solutions coming out because of the digital evolution we do. Just to take one more minute on the earlier thing which you talked about, the economic divide. And today a YouTuber, like we talked about, a remotest location people can put up his talent and he can make money. If I want to create a website and I got it done from a remotest location in Indonesia by paying $50 and he says, I will deliver and then you pay. See the confidence. It's a disruption, but at the same time, somebody is getting benefited. If I want to get a cricket team people, recruitment in India, it was used to be only for elite. Today in a village, if I throw a ball, and if I capture a video in the camera, artificial intelligence and machine learning helping me to see whether he will become a good bowler tomorrow, and hence I'm able to recruit. The world is changing, fascinating world. Digital is empowering all of us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkat. I think great thoughts. Yasmin, I will touch on the topic which you talked about the divide and about the government, how it can. So my question here is, how ready are governments across the world? I'm not just speaking your country, because while you have some thoughts there, generally your thoughts on that. How ready are the governments across the world, both as an enabler and a regulator, to address the issue of a digital divide? What are your thoughts on that? And what role do you what role the public policy things can be changed to really bring down this divide? If I ask that.
Well, thank you. Having the honor of serving the government for 4.5 years and working so hard during those 4 years, we know that digital leadership, I think the previous speakers have mentioned about it, how do you navigate as a leader? How do you navigate through an environment where change is so fast and you don't know where the goalpost is? The goalposts keep changing and there's so much of ambiguity. So even if you are in the position where you are able to hire and fire. You have unlimited budget when it comes to capacity building. You have CEOs who are top notch in their own environment. Even that is difficult. So if you look at in the government environment, and the minister from Indonesia mentioned one interesting word. It was collab action. Collab action. I think that is really interesting. And, and if somebody also mentioned about regulating with sensibilities, right? And the word that I always use is regulating, not for the sake of regulating, but regulating for a purpose. Now, if you are in government, if you spend your time in government, you would know how difficult that is. Words such as collaboration and integrated, the ability to be agile, risk-taking, in government, how decisions are being made, and with no, with due respect, with no shade to any government, it's across the world. In government, a decision is being made by having 10 people to not say no. Then a yes will happen. So, perseverance, and the greatest thing is humility. I mean, a lot of policies, a lot of governments, Malaysia including, and like I said, it's not only unique to Malaysia, we have policy frameworks coming out of our ears. And these policies, first of all, are they outcome, how much of them are outcome driven? Right? And secondly is that if a policy that is outcome driven and is being not delivering to the outcomes, do we have to our governments, and do we allow our governments, because governments are basically elected representatives, do we allow our governments to say, oops, it's not working? And is there enough trust that we gave them, or have they earned enough trust from us to be able to say that it's not working, let's pivot? In the world of innovation, that's why startups are so successful, because they can say that, it's not working, let's pivot, let's persevere. Right? And I think there are a lot of, so to answer your question about what are the key areas I think that governments can do to bridge digital divide, number one is having the policy, and the policy has to be integrated. If I look across the world, the governments that seem to be making more progress, better progress compared to, or able to grapple with this whole, the ambiguity and the fast pace, are governments with smaller number of ministries. So, a country like Malaysia, which has got 23 or 26 now, I've lost track, ministries and multiple agencies, and me being in one of those agencies before, were crying for some level of consolidation, some level of integration, so that you have a set of policy frameworks, but how does one policy integrate with the other to deliver the outcome? And I think that's, to us in the private sector, that may seem a no-brainer, right? But in government, it's very difficult. So to do this kind of government reform, how do you do it? I honestly don't have the answer, because I know how difficult it is to change within the government. But if we were to do, just the policy, one policy which, it really occurred to me when Narayana Murthy said just now about how India has just done a couple of things. He talked about one thing that has taken off and really made a difference, and another one which they will launch, which is the open platform for digital commerce. This is the second one. They said we're launching in a few months' time. But the one that they have done really well was digital ID. Digital ID will unleash, the whole capability around digital commerce. A lot of countries have embarked on the digital ID journey. If we were to do a scan to see how many of those had the perseverance and had the humility and given the trust by the citizen to pivot so that they are able to deliver digital ID, I don't know. I think Estonia, it's a shame that the Estonia person is not able, was caught in the airways, but we would love to hear the Estonian journey. But I think it's the digital ID, perhaps something that was started in many countries. It'd be good to revisit that, because I think just a couple of catalytic policies and transformative policies will make a big difference.
Great idea on digital ID, and I think every human, other than having a passport, if that can be replaced with a digital ID, that can help at all. George, the final question for you, and then I will open it for others to ask any question. There, right? how do you think digital is helping in the ways of finding and onboarding and managing talents, especially because of your lot of experience and you being chair for one of the product, right? So would like to definitely hear your thoughts how to find, onboard and manage talent in the current digital world.
Practical example is 6 or 7 years ago, I joined as an interim CFO a fairly large digital business, and that business didn't use an onboarding system. On my first day, I turned up, nobody knew I was starting, I mean, as a CFO. Then I had to negotiate with HR to get a laptop. Then I had to find a desk. I was shooed away twice by once the COO. I better not go into more detail because everybody can work out which company it is based on LinkedIn. Big data is everywhere. But what I'm saying is it's critically important for companies to choose, first and foremost, the right person. That's for the interview phase. There's a lot of technology out there in the area of, let's call it matchmaking or dating, which can be applicable, of meeting the requirements of a company to the requirements of an interviewee. The second bit is, when you start a new job or before you start a new job, everybody's kind of nervous what to expect. And having a process in place, a digital process in place, where the company actually reaches out far before the date of the start date and makes the person immediately welcome and interacts with the person. So the first day is actually not the first day. It's the first day where you get paid, but it's not your first day in the company. It's not the day where you get like sent these forms to fill out of information you have actually already provided. What is your name? What is your address? And so on and so forth, just to fill it in different siloed IT systems. If your journey as an employee is really an end-to-end journey, where from the day your personal brand leads to an interview and you're asked and selected for the right job and then guided into this job, then I think digital makes a real big difference. Now, in my whole life, I've worked in PropTech. PropTech, obviously due to the value of the properties, one of the most rewarding online disrupting industries. But most recently, I did some math. There's actually 50% more jobs, people employed out there than properties. So 50% more. People change their jobs 4 times more than they change their property. And the value over those 4 years is roughly half or 60% of the value of a property. Long story short, HR tech, or whatever we should call it, because funny enough, nobody has even bothered giving it a name, is 3 to 4 times bigger than PropTech. And here we are with one company in HR tech over there, and that's it. And then all the other PropTech and auto tech and so on and so forth. So there's a massive need for us to catch up. I got quite emotional. I learned that from the best. And so back to you. This is the answer. Technology can make the most important asset, the profession, the job, a much better experience.
Thank you, George. I know we are left with 5 minutes. We can open it up for a question. I don't know if I can hear the question here. If someone can summarize that question there on the dais for me, that would be great. But we will open for maybe a one question. We are left with just 5 minutes. Or online, if someone has a question. If not, I know it's end of the day, and after a tiring day, I will tell you, I really thoroughly enjoyed the entire conversation. And I want to touch upon few things which I heard in last 1.5 hours, right? When George started, right, he talked about workplace, and that's the reason I really, the human side of it, the whole area which he really brings, while prop tech is another area which he has a lot of expertise. The work tech is what I call it, or the human tech, or the workforce tech, whatever we call it, right? The talent tech is a lot. Climate change is another thing which he touched upon, and I strongly believe digital economy will help, because people will be more conscious about whatever they are doing, but giving back. When Yasmin talked about unintended consequences, right? It's very close to many of us on this panel who are hearing. This is an area of concern, and we are all very, very watchful, right? We have given the name as ESG in many places, but the whole thing is how it is going to impact and how it's going to create the balance is important, right? The mental health, polarization of the world, right? Divide between the people. I think we have to be very conscious about it, whatever we do, and we all are like influencers of the world when we work on it. Venkat touched upon medical and education disparity. It is seen. I don't call anything as a third world anymore. I think it is between the world which has seen it, done it, and the world which is doing it and will do it. I think there are only two types of world. So we have to make sure that the second part of the world really gets huge benefit, by the first part of the world also gets benefit, so that they spend less on that, and that money can be flown back to the second side of the world. I see that way this will. Dr. Cheung touched upon infrastructure economy, information economy, knowledge economy. I think these are the great things. Service economy, digital economy, right? Who controls the data controls the world. I think this is a great thought, and we all have seen the war is for data. I think maybe the war was for oil previously, or the virtual war, if I call, right? So data is going to be very powerful. Every company across the world will make sure that they have the data available for their own consumption. How can we democratize the data and can be used for broader human benefit? I think that's the way I see the data too. And I'm sure the world will see the data that way, that how data can be used to make life better for others. Stanley's thought on adding 50 cents to 4 billion people, I will tell you, this is very touching, especially for me, because I strongly believe every human has got the not only right, but also opportunity, and the world who is privileged to really help it out and really add those 50 cents to human. Mr. Lee talked about both rational decision, overcome physical limitations. I think these are the areas which is touched upon, and especially his thoughts on the financial sector. Finally, Shazali talked about digital divide, right? So if I see, right, there is lot of excitement, lot of worries. One of the thing, like while when I started, I talked about Uber. I will tell you, in next 1 to 2 years, there will be Uber for drones, and that will make metaverse a great platform. Another thing, Venkat talked about the physical touch, right? I will tell you that will happen with a robot touching it, and that will be part also of a part of a metaverse. A robot, you are shaking hand, and that same pressure you feel in your hand, maybe with some kind of a gloves, right? It will happen. It is going to happen, and all of us in our lives will see that. Another thing, I think a few of the technologies which I strongly believe in this current world is touching all of us, and everyone talked about it in some or other way. IoT, which is about collecting the data, because we are all talking about data, right? IoT is a synonym to the data collection way. So how are we collecting the data? If we are making sure it is collected right and stored and converting that from paper to, that will bring a lot of benefit. Second is, how are we moving the data from those IoT devices? So technology like 5G will enable, and many use cases will come out. And finally, the big data, if you really call it, right? Because that's where you apply AI, ML and all that, and make sure that humanity gets benefit out of it, right? While we have talked about, and everybody has got benefit out of technology in their companies, but how human will get benefit out of it, and the humanity will increase, that is what we are looking for. So thanks a lot for everyone's thought here. Really love the conversation. I am honored to be doing this conversation with so many people, which is like 300 plus years of experience. Really love the topic, and hopefully all of you have a great day And I'm sure all of you really got a lot of learnings from this conversation. Thanks a lot and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.